Hello everyone, it's Karen here with your reflection for Wednesday the 8th of May. Recently I saw in the news that the Olympic torch had set off from Olympia in Greece, the birthplace of the modern Olympics, to head on its journey around the world and ending up in Paris, which will be host of the 2024 Summer Olympics, which will take place from the 26th of July until the 11th of August this year. I love the Olympics and I'm sure that I will be glued to my TV screen over those 2 weeks. I even considered trying for tickets to go to the Olympics in person last year, with Paris being relatively close and much easier to get to than some far off place around the other side of the world. And who knows when we'll get the opportunity to see them so close again in the future. However, circumstance put paid to that, so I'll be watching from my sofa and not the stadiums or arenas. I particularly like the gymnastics, but I'm also drawn to the athletics and the pool events like the swimming and the diving, as well as the rowing and sailing, and even a little bit of weightlifting. I'll be cheering on Team GB's most successful Olympic gymnast, Max Whitlock, as he competes in his 4th and final Olympics, hoping for that 4th Olympic gold medal. This year marks 100 years since Paris last hosted the Olympic Games, and it will be the 3rd time Paris has held the Summer Olympic Games, having also held them in 1900. Paris is only the 2nd city ever to hold the Olympics 3 times. It's sure to be a great spectacle, with breakdancing included on the schedule for this first time, as well as the more traditional sports. It's also 100 years since one of Great Britain's most famous Olympians, Eric Liddell, who's no relation by the way, won his Olympic gold medal in the men's 400 metre sprint at the Paris 1924 Olympics. His victory and compelling story inspired the iconic film Chariots of Fire in 1981, and he's proved to be an inspiration to many people around the world, not only for his athleticism, his discipline, his determination, but also, and perhaps more importantly, his faith and the Christian values which led him to refuse to run in the 100 metres, his favoured event, because the heats were taking place on a Sunday, the Lord's Day. Instead, he decided to give the 400 metres a go instead, which wasn't his strongest event, because those heats were held on a weekday. Eric was born into faith. His parents were Scottish missionaries from Edinburgh, who were posted to Tianjin in China, where Eric and his siblings were born. He lived with his parents in China during his early years until he was sent to boarding school in London at the age of just 6. At school, Eric excelled at sport, particularly athletics, rugby and cricket. During his time at university, he was described as the fastest runner in Scotland, and he played in the then Five Nations rugby tournament in Scotland in 1922 and 1923. But it was his evangelism that really got people talking, and he was recruited by Glasgow University to spread the good news to men in Scotland. On the morning of that Olympic 400 metre final on the 11th of July 1924, Eric Liddell was handed a folded square of paper by one of the Olympic team masseurs. It said, "In the old book it says, 'He that honours me, I will honour.' Wishing you the best of success always." Recognising the reference to 1 Samuel chapter 2, Eric was profoundly moved that someone other than his coach had believed in him and the stance that he had taken. After graduating and competing for another year, Eric returned to China in 1925 to follow in his parents' footsteps as a missionary, spreading God's word, firstly in Tianjin, then the city of Shaojiang, where he continued to do so until his untimely death in 1945, aged just 43. Eric had married his wife Florence in China, and they went on to have 3 daughters, Patricia, Heather and Maureen, although he did not live to meet and see Maureen. In 1941, life in China was very dangerous, with threats from the Japanese, and British nationals were ordered to leave the country. Eric's wife and children left for Canada, where Florence was from, but Eric stayed on and was posted to a rural mission, assisting his brother Robert, who worked as a doctor there. During these hard times, Eric continued to work hard to look after the people in his care. In 1943, the mission was invaded by the Japanese, and Eric returned to Tianjin before being interned at the Weihexin internment camp. Even there, he busied himself leading Bible classes, helping the elderly, and teaching science to children. Langdon Gilkey, a survivor of that internment camp, said of him, "He was overflowing with good humour and love for life, and with enthusiasm and charm. It's rare indeed that a person has the good fortune to meet a saint, but he came as close to it as anyone I've ever known." And so, Eric died just 5 months before the liberation in 1945 of suspected brain tumour and a nervous breakdown due to overwork and malnourishment. He gave of his life for the cause, to care for others and to spread God's word and live out Christian values of care and compassion. And that's why Eric Liddell's legacy lives on, particularly here in Scotland and also in China, where he's remembered fondly too. This summer, I shall be going to Tianjin in China and will visit the stadium there which bears his name. So when you watch the Olympics this summer, remember Eric Liddell and let his strength of faith inspire you. Have a good week, everyone.